When alignment becomes a performance. A group can spend an entire day coordinating and still fail to move the work. In such rooms, the calendar fills, the notes multiply, and uncertainty remains intact. Coordination becomes signaling rather than alignment when the system rewards visible participation more reliably than it rewards reduced uncertainty, and meetings become the proxy for progress. Coordination has a real purpose: to reduce uncertainty across people who depend on one another. It clarifies who decides, what changes, what is blocked, and what done means. But most organizations cannot directly measure uncertainty reduced. They measure what is legible: attendance, responsiveness, airtime, artifacts, and the appearance of cross-functional involvement. This is not malice, it is a constraint of measurement. Once legible outputs become the score, incentives shift. If status depends on being seen as in the loop, the incentive is to maximize visibility. If risk is punished more than delay, the incentive is to add observers. If disagreement is costly, the incentive is to stage agreement in public and relocate real negotiation into private channels. A meeting then serves two functions: coordination and reputational insurance. When those functions conflict, the second quietly wins. Here is a common feedback loop. Leaders ask for alignment to avoid surprises. People respond by increasing the number of updates and stakeholders. The increased volume consumes attention, reducing time for the work that would actually remove uncertainty. Progress slows. Because progress slows, leaders ask for more frequent check-ins. The loop tightens. More coordination generates less capacity, which generates more coordination. There is also a trade-off between inclusivity and decisiveness. Inviting many voices can surface constraints early, but it also increases the cost of changing direction. Each additional participant adds legitimate perspectives and also adds coordination overhead. Past the threshold, the meeting optimizes for no one feels excluded, rather than the decision is correct. The proxy shifts from shared understanding to shared visibility. Another constraint is accountability ambiguity. When ownership is unclear, meetings become a substitute for responsibility. The group presence dilutes individual obligation. Minutes and action lists simulate control, but they can function as a ledger of intentions rather than a mechanism of execution. In that failure mode, the meeting is not a tool to coordinate work, it is a tool to distribute risk. A further trade-off is between speed and safety. Systems under scrutiny often prioritize traceable communication. Written updates, recurring reviews, and widely circulated decks provide auditability, but they can also turn communication into compliance theater. The artifact becomes a shield. The question changes from, is this true, to is this defensible? Signaling grows where the cost of being wrong is higher than the cost of being slow. These dynamics are amplified by hierarchy. When decisions are reversible but treated as irreversible, people seek permission. Permission seeking looks like alignment. Yet alignment without decision rights is only choreography. The room becomes a stage where consensus is performed because dissent has no safe channel and authority has no clear boundary. The shift from alignment to signaling is not merely a productivity issue. It is a change in what the group pays attention to, and attention is a moral resource because it determines what becomes real. When attention is aimed at visibility, the system treats being seen as the unit of value. People learn to speak in ways that travel upward, to prioritize what can be reported, and to select work that produces frequent artifacts. Second-order effects follow. Quiet labor becomes undervalued, long-term maintenance becomes neglected, and complex truth is traded for simple narrative. Coordination, at its best, is an expression of mutual responsibility. I adjust my actions because they affect yours, and I tell you what I'm doing because you need it to act. Signaling is a different posture. I display activity so I will not be blamed, so I will be credited, so I will be remembered. The difference is not the presence of communication. It is the purpose of communication. Meaning erodes when the organization teaches people, through incentives, not speeches, that what matters is what can be witnessed. In such a system, integrity is displaced by legibility. People become managers of impressions rather than stewards of outcomes. The work then fragments into two streams: the actual task and the narrated task. When those diverge, coordination becomes a performance of togetherness rather than a practice of shared reality. Consider a recent coordination moment and examine which uncertainty it reduced. Name as precisely as possible the decision it enabled, the dependency it clarified, or the risk it resolved. and then notice what was made more visible. Notice whether visibility was treated as evidence of alignment, or whether alignment was demonstrated by changed actions and clearer ownership. This is not a demand for less communication. It is an invitation to distinguish communication that changes the map from communication that decorates it. When coordination serves reality, it makes the next action simpler and the responsibility clearer. Clarity requires restraint.